Here is a interesting little revolver that I'd like to review. This is a Charter Arms Undercover Series Panther 38 Special. This particular revolver weighs in at 12 ounces. It's extremely light. It has an aluminum frame. It has a Charter Arms made rubberized handle. You can see here, much like a Hogue grip. And it does have the typical 2-inch barrel. This revolver is rated plus P, and the typical cost is just right at under $400. The factory suggested sits at $443. Typical retail, you see them for $399, possibly slightly less. This one is a slightly used model that I picked up for $250 even. Now, the intent of design of this revolver is for undercover work or primary or backup concealed carry. This revolver is extremely easy to carry concealed, and that's pretty much, as a lot of people know, the snub-nose 38 for decades. That's been its main role. Now, the strengths of this revolver is, number one, the grip. For my hands, I really like this grip. It provides me a very sure grip on this handgun, and it places my hand in the perfect spot to be able to shoot this revolver correctly. Another thing I like that I view as a strength is the open hammer design. A lot of you guys know I like my firearms to be versatile, and I just like the option of having the single action capability. In reality, you're not really going to use that single action capability much in a self-defense situation, but I like to know that it's there. Now, the weaknesses of this revolver. One weakness that people can consider with this revolver is the trigger mechanism. The trigger pull isn't quite as good as what you see from Ruger and Smith & Wesson. It's very consistent. I like the trigger pull personally, but Smith & Wesson and Ruger's trigger pulls on their typical revolvers, especially Smith & Wesson, their trigger pull is a little bit better, and naturally I expect that because they are more of a high-end revolver. But for self-defense purposes, this trigger pull is great. Some people can consider the sights a weakness. I honestly don't consider it, but some people have talked about the sights. They're not the greatest sights. They're not good for low light use, but for what this revolver is intended for, I think the sights are just fine. This is a close range concealed carry weapon. You're at ranges close enough where you can pretty much point shoot and still get your target. Now, for aftermarket support, there really isn't much out there. It is what it is. It's a 38 snub nose. This is a buy and carry type gun. You buy it and basically start carrying it. You test it to make sure it functions, then carry it without having to worry about lights or lasers or any of that jazz. That's really not, I don't believe this is the proper platform. If you want to add all that stuff on there, this isn't the way to go. Now, there are speed loaders available, and that's a good thing because for speed loading, that's a very important part with a revolver, because this revolver, you only have 5 rounds and you basically got to reload. So it doesn't have that much capacity, so you need to be able to speed load, and they do have those available on the market, so that is a good thing. Now, the training considerations with this revolver. Number one, if you're used to shooting semi-automatics, grip angle is going to be a little bit different, so take that into consideration. If you're used to shooting Glocks, you're going to be right at home. Also, there is the longer trigger pull. Double action trigger pull is a lot different than the shorter actions on a semi-automatic. Another thing to take into consideration is you only have 5 rounds. So very quickly you are going to be out of ammo. So you really need to put reloads at the forefront of your training. Once you get familiar with the basics of shooting this handgun, you need to put reloads at the forefront of your training. You really need to make sure those rounds count, because you're not going to have 10, 12, 15, 17, 19, whatever many rounds in that magazine. You're not going to have that on your side. You only have 5 rounds and that's it. So please take that into consideration. Also, training considerations. Obviously, this is not a semi-automatic. It takes more steps to reload this type of handgun versus a semi-automatic, where it's normally just push the button, the magazine pops out, throw a new one in, either rack to slide or hit the slide, slop, slide release, and boom, you're good. This takes a little bit more steps, a little bit more dexterity to reload in a stressful situation. So take that into account. With that said, the revolver is a very versatile choice and a very good choice for self-defense concealed carry. So I hope you like the review, and I really do like this revolver. On a side note, this is one of the reasons I got it. You can see the coloring here. It's the black with the bronze and brown, almost like a tiger stripe. It's like a camo type pattern. I really like that. I think it's pretty neat. It's different. So that's one of the things that drew me to this particular little revolver. So I'll carry it a little bit, see how it carries after I shoot it, and we'll go from there. The one thing about the revolver is, even though they are concealable, I'll throw up just for comparison. There's my Ruger LCP. Still very concealable, but there are smaller choices on the market, so just keep that in mind. So alright, thanks a lot for watching. Stay safe.